heavy metal champions of the world. Hey, it's Drucifer back with another edition of the Nuclear PODBLAST, the official podcast for Nuclear Blast Records. I hope you're doing as well as you can out there. Still crazy and unprecedented times that we live in. So what's new in the world of heavy metal since we were together a few months ago? Well, not much. Aside from bands continuing to write and record albums and being creative with some online promotion and performances, the touring industry continues to be shut down, and thousands of hardworking artists and industry people aren't earning an income. We want to keep our stages open, and it's really sad that some professional sporting events are allowed to happen with limited capacity stadiums, while there's no allowance for live entertainment to do the same. Now, that's just my 2 cents, but yes, something to definitely think about when it comes to where you spend your entertainment dollars in these pandemic times. Now, I've been buying a lot of vinyl recently, a lot more than usual, and I recently purchased some Nuclear Blast vinyl as well over at nuclearblastusa.com. One of those items, I finally got the Slayer Repentless 6.66-inch vinyl box set. So that's basically the entire album on 7-inch singles, one song per side. Pretty cool, actually. I got the black vinyl, although I do think gold and one other color is available. Also scored the latest Overkill album, The Wings of War, on double LP gray vinyl. Super cool. And by the way, if you didn't see online, Overkill drummer Jason Bittner has completed his drum tracks for the next record already. So as usual, the Jersey Gutter Thrash Brigade wastes no time between releases. We'll go over the upcoming October and November releases, also talk about what came out in September. I've got 3 interviews lined up for this episode. The charming Elize from Amaranthe spoke to me recently via Skype, so we'll speak to Elize about the new album Manifest that comes out in early October. Also, I got a chance to speak with my old friend Maurizio from Kataklysm, caught up with him for the first time in many years. So we've got that interview to look forward to. In just a few minutes, I'll play you my interview with David White, vocalist of Heathen, Bay Area thrash heroes who just put out their 4th record, Empire of the Blind. It was great to catch up with David. I've been a big Heathen fan for most of my metal life. Got to see them at the Thrash the Titans benefit in 2001 in the Bay Area when they reunited and got to play the benefit for Chuck Billy and Chuck Schuldiner. Plenty of Nuclear Blast metal to get through as well. First up on this PodBlast episode, the new one from ENSLAVED. Almost 30 years after changing their name from Phobia, ENSLAVED have been fluently combining blistering black metal with warm prog rock and archaic folklore with a dark psychedelic overcast. The band brought their highly inventive brand of extreme metal to a unique level with their 14th album, E, released back in 2017, by bringing a certain metaphysical plane to their very own interpretation of Nordic mythology, runes, and the sacredness and profanity. Utgard, the new album, is another breathtaking or fire-bringing release from a band who refuses to remain stagnant or be placed in any confined restrictions musically. Utgard can be countless things, the band states: an image, a metaphor, an esoteric location. From Norse mythology, we know it as a landscape where the giants dwell, where the gods of Asgard have no control. On a psychological level, it can represent the fears of sleep, dreams, or lucid dreams, the outer borders of your own consciousness, and what lies beyond them in the subconsciousness. Utgard represents something that is hard to master completely, perhaps impossible. This something is dangerous, chaotic, and uncontrollable. Yet there is something enchanting about a place like this. It is where madness, creativity, humor, and chaos dwell. End quote. I tell you, it's another fascinating release from ENSLAVED, and maybe you've heard this one already. This is Homebound, Utgard, out October 2nd, and this is the Nuclear PodBlast.
This is the Nuclear PODBLAST.
It's not supposed to be reinventing the wheel or anything. It's just about finding a good groove that we feel comfortable with. That's a quote from Silenos, of course, of Dimmu Borgir fame. And yes, Insidious Disease, second album, After Death, which comes out October 30th. You heard Betrayer right there, of course, also featuring Shane Embury and Tony Laureano. Again, After Death from Insidious Disease, out October 30th. And this is Drucifer with the Nuclear PODBLAST. You can call me Andrew. And before that, the brand new Enslaved. The track was Homebound from the Utgard record. Comes out October 2nd. Yes, Utgard. I hope I'm saying that right. My interview with David White of Heathen coming up in just a few minutes. The new album Empire of the Blind just came out on September 18th. And of course, the new Kataklysm record, Unconquered, out September 25th. Your Nuclear Blast October releases, along with the Enslaved album, the new release from Amaranthe, Manifest, also sees the light of day. It was a lot of fun to speak with vocalist Elize, and you'll hear my interview a bit later on in the episode with her. Scriptures from Benediction. Yes, the new record featuring the return of vocalist Dave Ingram comes out October 16th. Formed all the way back in 1989, Benediction have once again captured that infectious, plodding death metal sound that sinks its hooks in deep. Old school death metal fans rejoice. You'll get to hear a track from that album also in just a bit. October 23rd sees the release of Forgotten Days, the fourth album from PALLBEARER. I've been anxiously awaiting this one. PALLBEARER are a crucial band in the development and execution of modern doom metal, and the best thing to come out of Arkansas since, I don't know when. I've got a track from the Forgotten Days album coming up. It's as crushing as it is ethereal and melancholic. And CARCASS fans, yes, the new EP Despicable, out October 30th. Tempos are a bit slower to mid-pace throughout these 4 songs, but the guitar work weaves its usual web and the songs sink in quickly. And of course, the Insidious Disease also coming out on October 30th. So what a month Nuclear Blast has lined up. Perfect to precede your Halloween festivities. Bay Area thrash metal, one of the most beloved and coveted scenes in the history of heavy metal. Not only is the sound infinitely influential, but many of the scene's giants are still releasing quality material to this day. While Exodus, Metallica, Testament, Death Angel, and others made major names for themselves throughout the world, Heathen were a band that didn't quite receive the same accolades and international success as their peers, but they did release high-caliber metal that matched aggressive and nimble playing with melodic sensibilities that actually enabled them to stand out from the pack. 1987's Breaking the Silence debut was well received in the underground, and even scratched its way into some mainstream exposure via their video for the Sweet cover song Set Me Free, which received some play on MTV's Headbangers Ball. After a lineup shuffle, the band returned with their follow-up, Victims of Deception, in 1991. The band almost disbanded soon after, and a long period of inactivity followed until the Thrash of the Titans benefit in August of 2001, where the band played a short reunion set early in the afternoon. I was present at that Thrash of the Titans benefit show, and was thrilled to finally see Heathen play for the first time. I did get a chance to say hello to singer David White after the set that day, and eventually their follow-up record, Evolution of Chaos in 2010, set the bar even higher. At the time, new guitarist Craig Lum added some new vigor to the band's sound and style, and he actually began writing the material for the follow-up just a few years later after Evolution was released. But of course, due to original guitarist Lee Altus's current tenure in Exodus, it's been hard for the Heathen train to gather much momentum in the last several years. So it was great to be able to speak with David White via Skype back in early August before the release of Empire of the Blind. A super nice guy, and let's check it out. Back with the Nuclear PODBLAST, and such a pleasure to have David White, singer for Heathen, on Skype with us, live from Florida. Thanks for taking the time, David. We appreciate it.
Not a problem.
The new album, Empire of the Blind, out September 18th. Your 4th album in 3.5 decades. I just mentioned that we met briefly at the Thrash of the Titans festival in San Francisco in 2001. I'd just gotten back from Vakken the week before, and we drove up for the show. I was beside myself with the entire show, of course, just the nature of everything, what it was for, the benefit. But Heathen was a band that I never got to see in the early days, and I thought the set was great. A little short, obviously. I think about a half dozen songs, if I remember. The response was obviously amazing, but after that, what else played into the decision of the band actually reforming years later for the Evolution of Chaos recording?
Well, actually, when we got the call from Walter Morgan to do the show to help out Chuck, we were like, wow, that's kind of interesting, and the response from that show was sort of eye-opening. But then we actually had an invitation to play Vakken the following year. So, preparing for that, going to Germany and playing for that crowd at that festival was not overwhelming, but we were just in awe of what was happening, and we realized that metal was back, and that we could be relevant again. And so after that, we basically had decided, like, let's make a go of this. We had some recordings that we had done in '93 that we were trying to do for an EP. We wanted to take that stuff and finish it and start writing new material for a new record. We finished that material, which was a bunch of covers and one original, and it became the Recovered CD. Mm-hmm. And then we started writing material. In 2005, we actually did a shoestring tour of Europe and jumped on some dates in the UK with Nuclear Assault. They're good friends of ours, and they were kind enough to let us, tag along. And then the fans helped us out wherever we needed help. We had friends in Glasgow, fans there that put us up, at one of their apartments for the night, so we had a place to stay. But we were just into making it happen. But then Lee joined Exodus right after that tour. So it slowed things down, but we still had the vision to do a new Heathen record. And so in 2010, we finally were able to put out The Evolution of Chaos.
Well, that album was quite an undertaking overall, I'm sure, because most of the songs clock in at over 6 minutes, giving fans, I think, over 70 minutes or so on that record. Now, looking back at the Breaking the Silence debut and the follow-up Victims of Deception, Victims is obviously more layered and complex than its predecessor. Did the band set out to sort of outdo Victims of Deception in terms of depth and complexity, or is that just what naturally came from the writing process?
I think that's organic for sure. We're always trying to outdo ourselves. Breaking the Silence was, we were really young at the time and just chomping at the bit to get something out in on the airwaves and so that we could be relevant with the record. So, and then with Victims, after working with Ronnie Montrose on Breaking the Silence, we weren't really that happy with the production on that record. I know a lot of people really like that record, and I love the record, and I definitely love the songs. But
it's definitely wanted
to make a statement with Victims, and with Rob Beaton, we were able to co-produce with him, and so we tried to make the greatest record we could at the time. And I mean, I think the record stands on its own. With The Evolution of Chaos, after it had been such a long time since the last full-length record, we definitely had something to prove, and we definitely put all our eggs in that basket at the time. We definitely wanted to make the greatest record we could make, and I think that's always been the mindset. So same thing. It's no different with the Empire of the Blind. We're always striving for the best that we can be.
Well, here we are a decade after Evolution with the new record. Empire of the Blind is overall more simple in structure, the songs being shorter in length and more directly to the point, so to speak. Before we get into specific songs and details, tell us about, quote, the blind and the empire they have formed.
Well, I think that's really, I think it's important for every individual when they listen to this record to take it in and sort of, come to their own, conclusion. Because, when Cragen wrote the record, he has a certain vision and a mindset. But, everybody, when it's art, I think it's important that people look at it and listen to it or whatever and absorb it and, determine how it makes them feel or what they think about when they read the lyrics or when they listen to the music. So I'm going to, volley that to the fans.
Okay, that's fine. Well, guitarist Cragen, as you mentioned before, formerly of Prototype, I think, from LA. I used to see that band play. And as well as filling in the shoes for Gary Holt when needed. He joined the band before Evolution of Chaos, and it seems like, he's written most of this material, as you said. This is his baby, the songs on Empire of the Blind. And going back to as far as 2014, I think I read, Did you find it at all frustrating as far as not having the time or resources to develop Empire of the Blind in a quicker period? Or were you always just, you take what you get?
Well, it was definitely frustrating. You know, for me, I know that, you know, Kraken was having fun touring with Exodus. He's toured more now because of all the Exodus touring. He's toured more than I have. You know, and when I brought him into this project in 2007, he was definitely, even from his audition, we knew he was the guy right away. Like probably the first song that he played with us.
Great player.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, we've got a guy that can write, he can play, he's a great rhythm player, you know, one of the best rhythm players out there. And he's a great solo player as well. And now we're seeing his writing ability. You know, the work that he's done with Prototype. I mean, Prototype and Psychosis, the two other groups that he does work with. Those are projects that, you know, will probably still create. They'll, you know, they're not. I don't think those projects are dead. Getting back to your question, yeah, I mean, it's definitely frustrating for me when I lost both my guitar players to Exodus, so that the Exodus train could keep rolling, and we have this material, and we have a record deal with Nuclear Blast. But, you know, it's basically, I mean, the best label that we've ever signed to, and hopefully we'll be with them for the rest of our time, and not be able to get something going for whatever the reasons, you know. Luckily, they understand, because Exodus is actually, you know, label mates with us, that we kind of, you know, they understand why it's taking so long. But consequently, I think because of the timing, that paved the way to be able to work with Zeus on this record. So if all of it brought us to him in the particular timing, then it's all worth it.
And I know he's excited as a fan. I've known Zeus for over 20 years, and he's a great fan of metal. So it had to be exciting for him to work with you guys as well. The Blight is the first song on the album, as well as the first single, a song that captures the Bay Area sound in a modern shell, sonic-wise, I think. It's received good response and is a good 4.5-minute representation of the new record. But there's a lot to offer on the album that perhaps a seasoned fan won't be expecting. How hard is it to balance what is expected or wanted from a dedicated fan base versus, you know, what comes out of you naturally as a musician and writer?
Well, I mean, we definitely want to do what we do, and I think that we always have stayed true to how we do things as, you know, as a band with Heathen, and you know, we hope that the true fans will understand where we're going with things and be supportive. You don't necessarily have to like every single song or whatever, you know, but we still hope that you'll be supportive of the band and of the genre, you know. If it wasn't for the fans, I mean, we wouldn't have a vehicle to do anything.
Well, after The Blight is the title track, which is, again, a more aggressive track, and then we get into some more interesting stuff like Dead and Gone. It's a mid-paced track that musically has a pretty simple approach, and I find the lyrics interesting. Take me, fake me, slit me in two, dig me a new hole and fill it with you.
Well, I could just say that who knows what goes on in Kraken's twisted mind.
So he wrote all of the lyrics as well?
He wrote the entire record.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was just music and you contributed lyrics or how it went. So 100% Kraken. Gotcha.
Yeah, 100%, you know, in the writing phase, yeah. I mean, there's aspects of things that, you know, and flavors that everybody brought to the table to make it Heathen. But I think it was important for Kraken, even though, I mean, he's a new member, but he's been with the band since 2007. So he's probably been in the band longer than any other band member except for me and Lee. And I think that it was important for him to solidify his presence in this band and the Empire of the Blind. I think he accomplished that.
Well, Sun in My Hand, again, has a simple approach to it, kind of a 90s feel to it, not to shove it in a box style-wise, but it offers an alternative to the faster and more aggressive numbers. And Shrine of Apathy is the lone ballad-like number on Empire of the Blind. Do you feel that this album showcases the biggest variety that Heathen has offered on one single album?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's, we have aspects of things like on Victims, where there's fast songs and then there's mid-pace, songs that are, head-banging chunkers. And then there's a ballad on Victims. But also, I mean, there's Prisoners of Fate, which is really ballady. But then also Heathen song is ballady and epic. I think Evolution of Chaos, we didn't really have a song like that. We didn't, you know what I mean? There was no ballady song on that record, really. And I think with this one, we kind of came back to it. But I think all in all, it was organic the way it happened. And those two songs are super strong. Sun in My Hand, that was an early song that Cragen had written music for. And I was actually working on it lyrically. And I wrote a song to that. I wrote lyrics to that song. It wasn't Sun in My Hand, but it took a long time because I went through the death of my mother and there was a lot of family stuff. So it took a while. And during the time where I was on hiatus, he had written a version of the song. It was one of those things where there was some contention between us because of it, because it was like I had worked, hard on the song and it was still in the development stages. And he just felt really strongly of what he had come up with. At the end of the day, we just had to all compromise and let him see his vision through.
Well, Heathen has always stood out from the Bay Area thrash pack for me, mainly due to the melodic sensibilities, along with vicious riffing and intricate songwriting back then. Exodus, Testament, Death Angel, and even Violence, all these bands from the scene are also still active to this day and releasing great new material. In what ways do you feel the band stands out today from the Bay Area pack and from the metal community in general?
Well, we're just better than all those bands.
There you go.
No, I mean, well, I think that we do what we do, and I don't know how we stack up. I mean, like that's another aspect for the fans to decide. I'm super partial to the bands that come from the Bay Area, but I mean, I like bands from all over, and we have friends from all over that play music. But there's just a sort of a, I don't know, like I don't want to say a mood, but there's just certain aspect of what the Bay Area bands bring. And what's I think is amazing is that everybody's so different, but there are some weaving vibes that go through with all the different bands. We all kind of are on that same wavelength in so many ways. And, I think that it's important that everybody can kind of decipher the difference between each group, because you have different singers, you have different guitar players that have just a different flow or a different feeling in the way they play.
Well, September 18th, Empire of the Blind, your fourth album. Congratulations, man. This is a great record. Again, a lot of different faces being offered here musically, and I think it does take the listener on a great ride. So congratulations to Cragen and yourself and the rest of the band.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The Nuclear PodBLAST reminds you to stay 6.66 feet apart from each other. Wash your hands often and find some great metal at nuclearblastusa.com.
October 23rd is the release date for the new Pallbearer record, Forgotten Days, which sees the band heading back in a rawer direction, perhaps, than the predecessor, Heartless. That was the title track, Forgotten Days, and this is the band's fourth release and first solely for Nuclear Blast, as Heartless was a co-release between Nuclear Blast in Europe and other international territories, while Profound Lore released the album in North America. Guitarist-vocalist Brett Campbell says about Forgotten Days, quote, "I wanted to capture the immediacy and what the songs feel like when they're performed live. We didn't want to mess too much with the initial spark. We didn't want to color over our inspirations too much. Heartless is fairly up-tempo and technical. This one is a little more open, but it hammers you." End quote. Big thanks to David White of Heathen for taking the time several weeks ago before the new album Empire of the Blind was released. You heard the title track to the record, and a lot of variety on that Heathen record. So if you're a fan of good melodic thrash metal that's fast as well as slow and everything in between, you're not going to be disappointed. November releases from Nuclear Blast include BELPHEGOR. Their Necrodaemon Terrorsathan record from 2000 is being reissued, but with a re-recorded title track. You'll hear that before the end of the episode. Murder metal initiators Macabre from Chicago bring us Carnival of Killers on November 13. Yes, a new Macabre album. Also on November 13th, another album from ex-Motorhead guitarist Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. And I'll let you know now, he's going to be a part of the next episode of the Nuclear Podblast. Killer Be Killed and their new album Reluctant Hero comes out on November 20th. So that takes you up to Thanksgiving for the Nuclear Blast release schedule. My interview with Maurizio from Kataklysm coming up in just several minutes. How about some of that brand new Benediction? Yeah, if you haven't seen the video for this yet, head over to the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel and check out Stormcrow. Scriptures is out October 16th, and this is the Nuclear Podblast.
Many are its names, a tempest walk to blind. Born
Nuclear PODBLAST. Get more Nuclear Blast metal at nuclearblastusa.com.
Underneath the Scars by Kataklysm from the album Unconquered comes out September 25th. It's the Nuclear PODBLAST with Drucifer. Thanks for hanging on. Brand new Benediction before that, Stormcrow. Again, check out that video at the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel. Now, I can recall working Kataklysm records directly for the label. And you know, some bands are more hands-on than others when it comes to the promotions of their records. They either want to be involved and have constant updates, or they really don't want to be involved and just let somebody else take care of it. You know, when a band's new record is, climbing the metal radio charts or getting this press here or whatever, you give updates to bands every so often. But Maurizio was always a guy that wanted to be involved. He was calling every week, wanting to know what the latest radio numbers were, wanting to know where the latest interviews landed in what magazines. and he always wanted to know what he could do to help out. If there was any phone calls he could make to thank people directly for giving the band and the album's attention or whatever. But just a great guy to work with. Believe me, there's some artists out there that just like to sit around and let their record label do all the work, but not Maurizio's. He was always totally hands-on, and always appreciated him for that, always wanting to do some extra work. So it was great catching up with him and talking about the new record, Unconquered. Wow, man. When you hear this record in its entirety, there's so much going on, from super heavy to traditionally heavy, something that's not so fast. The band really created an album that spans a huge, vast spectrum of heavy metal. And the clarity in Maurizio's vocals is clearer now more than ever. So you can understand every lyric, which is different for extreme metal, right? I'm excited for the world to hear Unconquered, out September 25th. Back with the Nuclear PodBlast, it's Drucifer, the new Kataklysm record, Unconquered, the band's 14th record, out September 25th. And a big pleasure to have Maurizio Iacono on the phone, on Skype, I should say. Thanks for taking the time, man, to join the Nuclear PodBlast.
Andrew, it's my pleasure to be here and talking to you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we've got some positive history between us, going back 15 years ago or so when I promoted your albums to press and radio for Nuclear Blast. But it's been a long time, and I'm excited to speak to you today. Just 2 years and a month since the release of the overwhelming Meditations album, we have a brand new Kataklysm record, Unconquered. Now, before we go further or get into any details, I have to be honest and say that I've just had a chance to listen to the record over the last 2 days. And this is one hell of an album, man. From the songs to the lyrics, the production, the artwork. This is quite a statement and easily one of the band's most notable releases, I think, over the last many years. But this is an album that took a lot out of you physically and emotionally. But apparently once you got going, it all came together pretty quickly. So give us some further insight about the toll that the album took on you guys while writing and preparing and recording.
Well, first, thank you for the compliment, man. I appreciate that very much. And I think we all do in the band, obviously. The thing is we actually came into this record at about end of last summer. I think it was about July, August. We started writing this record. We just had a lot of inspiration. For some reason, there was a lot of aggressiveness going on inside of us, I guess. We just had so much to write about and do, and we just wanted to get in the studio as soon as possible. We didn't want to wait 3 years or 4 years between records, and we just came in and realized also that it's getting close to the band's 30th anniversary. It's been that long that the band's been together. Time flies. Yeah. And I think it was time for us to make that statement that, with all these years in us, 14th record, that we could come back stronger than ever. And also and that's why we revitalized the Beast, which was our mascot for many albums. Yeah. And it was 10 years since he's been gone. And we thought, hey, this is the perfect time with this type of record to bring him back. And with the album title like Unconquered, it just felt right. And we were just happy to do it. Yeah, it was emotionally driven record. It wasn't under any circumstance a pressured album as far as like having fans say, hey, you got to come back heavy or whatever. I always said it, our emotions are the times is what we put on our records, the way we feel. And the Meditations was more of a melodic, melancholic, thrashy a little bit. It had a little bit of everything in that record as well. But this one just came out with fire, it was just like a lot of anger and driven, by, I think, the world events. And there was no pandemic yet, so imagine how we're feeling now.
No kidding. Well, I think you're right. I'm not sure I've heard such a diverse album from Kataklysm in a while, at least not one where each song is individually this strong. And although the band had written beyond the confines of death metal many years ago, this album, to me, really shouldn't even be considered a death metal record. It's just a great extreme metal record, as much of the writing and discovery go well beyond death metal.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's the way I see it as well. Everybody's going to label it the way they want to label it, and it's a step up as far as production. Also, I think with we put a lot of emphasis on the writing, but also a lot on the production and the sound and everything. We wanted to modernize the band's sound, which I think we did effectively on this record. Jeff went from a 6-string guitar, to a 7-string guitar. and that made the album sound a lot meatier. Also on the bass, from 4 to 5. And I think that the cherry on the sundae for us on this record has been Colin Richardson. I mean, This is a seasoned veteran, iconic producer in metal, especially in our genre, and just done records from anywhere from Slipknot, Machine Head to Carcass, and all these big records that he did. Everything he touched, as you well know, in the past, it was just always big, And he came out of retirement to do this album. He heard the demo tracks. We had a connection to him. And we said, hey, it would be awesome for you to have a return, and like do something, because we're big fans. And he loved the songs, and he jumped right in it. And he came out of retirement for this record, which for us was like, wow. It's like, when the stars aligned, and that's what it's looking like for us on this album,
Well, before it's even delivered to your fans or the public, just having that stamp of approval, has to be, give you so much confidence that, we got him out of retirement to put his hands on this record. So that's just great. I couldn't believe it when I heard. But when I heard the album, it was well, there you go. So you're right. It is a step up. It's a little warmer, perhaps. Some great production, man. And some of the layering, too. You and JF really deliver an array of styles and emotions like we talked about. But even like the keyboard layers on Focus to Destroy You, those little details really make the production stand out. So I'm glad you brought that up.
That also came from Chris Clancy, and which was the backup man and assistant of Colin Richardson. And Colin Richardson were like, hey, why do we do this here? So they had a little touch in that type of stuff as well. So that's what made it also cool. They were so into the album that they were like, hey, try this or do this. And it was really like co-produced in certain areas of the album. Although they don't want to take any credit for it, we told them, hey, if you want some co-producing credits, we'll throw them out there for you. They're like, nah, man, this was all you guys. We just kind of seasoned it up a little bit with certain places. But that, when you have that type of connection with a producer or something, it just brings all the elements out perfectly, and I think that was cool part,
So the first two tracks on Unconquered are Kill Shot and Cut Me Down, Kill Shot being the first single. And between those two, you get a good idea of the diversity that lies ahead with this record. Now, I know your lyrical approach on the album has a positive sort of fighting back approach to it, but I also think that the melodic chorus of Underneath the Scars has a very positive vibe to it as well, especially coming out of such a brutal verse.
Yes, and the idea behind the record is exactly that. I really write the lyrics in a open fashion as far as like, the idea behind it. It obviously comes from a deep place inside my mind and what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling and all that. But in the end, I do it in an open book way where people can attach their own stories to the lyrics. So it's kind of written in a poetic way where you can attach your own vision, let's say like that. I've always had this thing where in a dark moment, I find a light somehow. In my life, in my everyday life, or everything. Some days I can be all darkness and that's it, and then fall into a little bit of a depression like everybody else I think does from time to time. But I always kind of fight back, and that's my character. And I always had that idea with Kataklysm. On this record, it just felt like I felt overwhelmed with everything that I had going on in my life, because I don't have only Kataklysm, and Ex-Deo and other stuff that I do. I have also, a family, and I have, a management company, and I have an agency where I book bands and tours and stuff. So I never took a break, So this forced break right now for me has been actually a good thing, but mentally, when this was happening, when this record was getting written and everything, it was actually a pretty dark moment. I felt very aggressive. I felt very, like all out fire in me. And I just told JF, fly up to Chicago. We got to write a record. That's how it actually happened. So it's a very honest album. Let's put it that way. And it has that, starts dark, starts with an issue, something bad. But then there's that little positive message behind it that kind of is uplifting, And I think that that's the most important part of this record coming out now, especially with the name Unconquered, with what's going on. I think, if you're a band that stands by what it says and that you're a real rebel, I think the biggest gamble is to release records in this moment. And I think that when things are so uncertain, when stores are not taking records in, and where things are very difficult, we're out here promoting an album where we don't know where it's going to go, where it's going to happen, if it's going to work or not. We're just doing it because there's a connection between us and our fans, and we want to deliver music to help, and it's also our therapy. So that's pretty much the mission behind this record. NB actually wanted to push this record to 2021. When they heard it, they were like,
yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. They were like, it's a strong record. Let's not gamble it, and let's not, we can maximize this, and let's push it. And we're like, well, what's the point? We don't know what's going to happen next year. In the end, I love the fact that they fought for us with that, like that, and they believe in the record so much. But at some point, we have to stand our ground also on what's going on now. And I think, metal's never been about pretty places and flowers. It's been
that's
about,
right.
getting yourself out of shit. And it's like, and I believe that's the right approach we're taking, and I think fans are responding, absolutely killer on this first single, at least right now, and media so far has been all over this record, so it looks good.
Something that goes along hand in hand with you talking about the lyrics being, so important is the clarity in your vocals. I mean, I don't even have to get a lyric sheet to understand every line on this record. So I think that's a statement in itself too. If you want people to understand what's going on, how about some clarity in your vocals? And unlike most death metal or extreme metal bands, you can hear every line of your lyrics, I think.
Yeah. And it's been a powerful point for me as a vocalist of Kataklysm and Kataklysm in general compared to other death metal bands and extreme bands. Mm-hmm. But I also fought with myself with that, because there's this credibility thing in death metal where the more brutal you are, the cooler you are, and the more guttural you are, and the more real you are, and all this stuff. And at some point I let that go, which I would say is about 3 records ago or something like that, maybe 4, that I decided that's not my strong point. I'm not going to be Frank Mullen ever, or I'm not going to be the dude from Disgorge or whatever. It's just not me. I'm more of a mid-range. I like to hear what I'm saying and enunciate my words and put it down in a powerful way, like maybe a little bit more like the dude from At the Gates or whatever. Just like I felt that range for me is better. I'm more capable of doing dynamics and things, and that's actually, I think once you true to yourself 100%, things start developing in the right way, and the doors open, and I think that's goes for everything in life.
The hooks on even your most brutal songs sink in deep. The track Defiant, for example, the lyric "One step closer to your fall from grace." I mean, this is catchy death metal, so to speak, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. And in that track, we were messing with our drummer to do it, because we had actually pre-written also all the drum parts on this record. Like when I tell you, me and JF just took the horns on this record. We took it from the top to the end, Mm-hmm. And we were like, this is what we want you to do on the record. It's like, how am I supposed to play this live? I said, well, you're going to figure it out. So it's like, we were like, we wanted like this. And this record, like Defiant, is probably one of the heaviest tracks we've ever written, I think, as a band, especially, in the last, I would say, 5-6 records. It's like just that heavy of a track, but at the same time, it's got this underlying groove and like easy listening, even if it's so extreme, and I think it's something that we're capable of doing. I don't know how, but I think Kataklysm is capable of doing songs that are as extreme as anybody out there, but at the same time, it's easy listening. It's not like, you want to throw yourself out a window because you can't take it anymore,
Right, you're not trying to fool somebody. You want somebody to be along for the entire ride.
Right, and we write songs, right? Like let's make it, for what it really is. Kataklysm is never, I think maybe in the first 2-3 records we were more of a, let's just try and be the craziest band in the world and just like we just F everything and just let's do it. This, we've become a band that's like writing songs, like we want people to understand there's a structure into everything we're doing. And I like, we personally like music that, let's say, is going more on the bluesy end than the jazzy end, where you need more of a calculator, to see what's going on. That's the way, at least, that we like to write,
Stitches seems to be a bit of a newer approach for the band, maybe not just musically, but vocally as well, with the repetition there in the chorus. Now, mm-hmm. what non-extreme musical acts do you get some of your influences from?
Like I said before, I listen to a lot of blues, a lot of stuff like that. I also listen to some rock. I like rock a lot. The different type of bands that are like that. But I like soundtracks a lot.
Oh, cool.
So I get a lot of stuff from even composers like Tyler Bates, and they think just different elements, and I'm a music guy. I'm not just into metal. And I think that when you're always only in one thing and that's all you listen to, you're going to start sounding like everybody else. Like right. I like to try and open up a little bit more my musical spectrum when I write. A song like Stitches was actually one of the favorites of the producers. Colin Richardson loved that song a lot. Andy Sneap as well. Like a couple of these guys were, because this whole record was recorded at Andy Sneap's studio in England at Backstage. Okay. Over there, mixed. It was all mixed there, and so he can pop in the studio once in a while. And that was one of the songs that he was like, "Wow, this is different for Kataklysm. It's a bit more commercial, It's got a different element to it. We stepped into some new territory on that song,
for sure.
But it's still like out of nowhere in that track, there's a chaotic area that comes in. You're like, "What the hell just happened?" So it's kind of throws you off a little bit, and that's what we try to do also on the record. Just go with your emotions,
Mm-hmm. Well, the final two songs to me stand out as much as the others. Icarus Falling, with the piano and a super melodic opening part and a great staccato style verse riff, which is super catchy, and the final track, When It's Over, which is a slower, plodding cut that gives an agonizing portrayal of betrayal, it seems like, lyrically. Yeah. It's a wrenching end to a really bold, multi-dimensional musical ride. Was it hard to put the song order together for Unconquered, or did that flow easily as well?
It's the hard part about this record was the beginning of how we're going to unbottle all this energy we got inside of us and in our minds, me and JF in the studio. It was just like how we're going to take this out there and piece it together, And then once we started, it just came it flowed like water. It just happened, and even the songs, we knew exactly how to place them. And this last song was just the song that I wrote that song one night in the studio, and he was done for the day, and I just stood there with the guitar and I wrote that whole track. And he came back the next day and I'm like, "Hey, I wrote this, and what do you think?" And he was like, "It's really different, and it looks like an album ender, And wow. Let's just go that route." And we had 3 songs left to write, and that was, we knew that's going to be the last song, So it came naturally. It's one of those moments, I think, in a career when things just puzzle together easily, and it meant to be that way,
Well, hopefully we can get back to seeing you guys on the road properly, next year, let's hope, supporting the record. Unconquered, the 14th album from Kataklysm, out September 25th. Maurizio, man, it's been a real pleasure catching up with you again, and thanks for taking the time, man. Congrats on this record, and wow, can't wait to see its release.
Awesome, man. And you know what? Thank you. I want to thank you for being out there and being the voice of all of us, because there's nothing out there left. There's no touring. There's nothing that we can connect with the fans. So you guys are extremely important right now to give the message out there. So I appreciate you, man, and hope to see you again close where you at, and on a concert, on a stage. And
yeah,
have a beer or two and then chill.
Sounds good, man. Thanks again, and congratulations on the new record.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
So many times I can't bleed no more. I can't feel
This is the Nuclear PODBLAST, the official podcast for Nuclear Blast Records.
The Living Dead and the Manchester Morgue. That cut coming from the Despicable EP from CARCASS, out October 30th. 4 songs of Swedish metal mastery. A huge thanks to my friend Maurizio from Kataklysm for the great interview. It was cool catching up and hearing about the writing process and recording process involved for Unconquered, and the mindset of the band throughout. The second track from Kataklysm you heard is Stitches, one of the songs that we were talking about in the interview that maybe sounds a little bit different than what most Kataklysm fans are used to hearing. But again, such a varied album, and congratulations to Maurizio, JF, and the band for releasing such an awesome album during such a crazy time. Since you're not paying to see many live concerts these days, maybe head over to nuclearblastusa.com and spend some of that extra cash at the store. Similar to the Slayer's 6.66-inch Repentless vinyl box set, in stock now is Testament's Brotherhood of the Snake album, available in a box that contains a CD, 5 brown 7-inch vinyl singles, an oversized 7-inch booklet, a 40-inch by 60-inch poster flag, and a metal pin. $56 American. That's a pretty good deal, actually. Except have a new 7-inch called Undertaker that comes out October 9th, available in red, gold, and mixed black and white vinyl for $11.99 and $13.99 US. Also, multicolor vinyl pre-orders for Kataklysm, Heathen, Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, Macabre, Killer Be Killed, Benediction, and BELPHEGOR are now available. And I've got to mention the Unhappy Meal deal from Macabre, featuring a 3-color t-shirt plus activity sheet plus box plus LP. So go check it out, nuclearblastusa.com, and spend some money. Now, the 2018 album from Amaranthe, Helix, was the first full album I remember hearing from the band from start to finish. Now, with 3 vocalists, there's just always so much going on. And it's interesting that they supported Sabaton overseas earlier this year, as their music is something that I liken to Sabaton, but obviously with a female vocal. So I was happy to get a chance to check out the new record Manifest before speaking with lead vocalist Elize. The album is just bombastic. That's the best word I can use to describe it in one word. And again, Elize is just so charming to talk to. So enjoy the interview. We're back with the Nuclear Pod Blast. The brand new Amaranthe album, Manifest, comes out October 2nd worldwide, and we're graced with the presence of Elize, lead vocalist from Amaranthe. Thank you so much for taking the time there in Sweden.
Hello there. Thank you very much for taking your time. Yes, I'm in Gothenburg at the moment.
Very nice. Is that where you reside?
Yes. It's actually me and the guitarist and my co-writer, Olaf.
Well, I've got a chance to listen to the new album over the last couple of days, and I have to say the energy and the bombastic production, along with the positive and even uplifting lyrics, really give the album a huge presence. Now, when you guys began to really piece this album together, did it feel like something greater than perhaps the band has been able to do in the past?
Thank you very much. That was a very nice explanation. And I would say that this is what we were hoping for. We have had a long career so far. We have released a lot of albums. We've been going towards a few different directions. We've been going through a few changing of members, and we have, it's been a very nice road, but also a little bit bumpy. And I think that at this time in the band's career, we felt like finally we are in a really good place, taken care of by, for example, Nuclear Blast. That's a very nice feeling. Mm-hmm. And we're very honored to be on the label. And we have a very good manager, Anila Gosov, and we have established our membership with Nils, who joined the band before the previous album. So it feels like we were much a better team, and this is probably why, it's the same, I think, as in sports, being a band. If you have a very strong team, where you can achieve bigger things. And I think at this time, this is one of the reasons why we might appear a bit more strong than in the past. And it's a very nice feeling, I have to say. And when we wrote the songs, we of course wanted to reflect that feeling into our music. And also that's when the idea to call the album Manifest came about.
When did recording begin for Manifest? And I'm really curious to know a little bit more about how a 3-vocalist band actually records their vocals. Do you have a set process that one singer follows another, or is it just different with each song? I know that Nils just joined previous to the Helix records, but give us a little insight on the recording.
Yeah, sure. Well, earlier this year, we were on tour with a very big, amazing band called Sabaton.
Yes.
And we did finish up a lot of the songs after we came back home from that tour. And I think what can kind of reflect that onto the album is the sound.
Yeah.
You know, when you've been touring around in big arenas, hearing that kind of fat sound every night, you realize what you would want your own album to sound like. So we did actually write like 8 songs after coming back home from the tour, which was in the end of February, and we went to the studio in March. We've been recording all our albums with Jacob Hansen in Ribe. It's a very small village in Denmark, and usually we start by having Morten, me, and Olaf in the studio. So we can work on the basics to begin with. We have the keys and the structure of the song finished. And then, of course, we always make the demos with my vocals, so we can still send the songs to the other 2 guys. Olaf makes the growls. I have to say, it sounds extremely funny. I wish you could hear that someday. Yeah, so it happened lately anyways that I start to put the vocals and because I am already in the studio basically, I wouldn't mind having the other 2 singers in the studio early, but anyways, this is how it's been. Yeah, one of the things being 3 singers is that we can give each other, kind of help each other to raise the energy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we basically just try to get everything in there, and then we mix and match afterwards.
Well, there's so much going on, and that's not that's not to say that it wasn't happening in your previous records, but especially this one, there's seems to be maybe a few more layers, just maybe with the keyboards or something. But there's so much going on. Everything seems to be upped just a little bit from the previous album, Helix. Did Olaf write most of the material on this time around again, or were there some other contributions?
No, he always made all the arrangements, actually since the first album. But I think just it's a general development that we had actually also a new keyboard. I have to say it helped us a lot from Yamaha. That had a lot of very interesting sounds, and it's very inspiring when you have good material to work with. And we usually pick out the sounds together. And yeah, I think maybe because he was also very passionate himself about the songs this time around.
Well, from the first song, Fearless, the band paints a picture of me or us against all, that sort of mentality in the lyrics. Again, very positive vocals about overcoming hardships, loss, and personal obstruction run throughout a lot of the songs. Make It Better right after that pushes that further with a super heavy rhythmic wave before your vocals bring in sort of an ethereal sense to the song. Tell us a little bit more about the song and the lyrics for Make It Better.
That's one of the songs that I wrote in the middle of the night. There is a lot of people that always want to present an idea into your head, but after all, it seems like every person has a very clear picture of what is right and what is wrong, if you know what I mean, in society. And we then later on, like you said, we made it more into a theme song, which includes everyone and a more society-orientated track.
Well, the single Viral, the video for that was just released a month or 2 ago, and judging by the footage, I'm guessing the song is about perhaps people who choose to hide behind online identities or not just live life in a more pastoral sense.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, that was the main idea with the song. And that title was, long ago, it was on the list. We usually collect words that we believe could be very cool as a title for a song, and Olaf came up with this Viral, and how you see so many people are living their lives through behind the screen basically, and they are always very strong in their opinions online, but I don't see that very often in real life, if you know what I mean, if there is not a politician speaking, for example. It goes a little bit also hand in hand with Make It Better, maybe if you start to change that, use that energy for the right purposes, we could make so much things better in this world.
Well, a newer single and video, Strong, also features Noora from Battle Beast on vocals. How much fun was shooting that video, the two of you?
Oh God, that was so much fun. Noora said it was her best video recording ever. I thought it was amazing. It was, of course, very different. I did also record a video with Anila for Do or Die,
right,
where it was the two of us, but we were outside. It was cold as hell. It was very harsh circumstances, but shooting the Strong, we were just going crazy with the ideas, the looks. It was only the two of us at the time, and we were inside, and together with Ville, who is a very artistic person, and we were having so many fun discussions, and I had a lot of fun with her. She's an extremely funny person, I have to say, and also very passionate and has a lot of really nice ideas. So it was a very magical moment for us too.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time on the Nuclear PodBlast. Again, the 6th album from Amaranthe, Manifest, out October 2nd. We look forward to hopefully next year maybe even getting over here to tour.
Yeah, let's hope so, since we had to cancel the tour with Battle Beast now. And it really sucks because it was a while ago we went to the States and we love to play there.
Yeah, exactly. And you're building such a great fan base here, so
yes.
We look forward to having you back. Well, thanks again, Elize, so much. Congratulations on the new record, and hope to see you over here soon.
Thank you very much. It was really nice to talk to you, Andrew.
Don't forget to check out that video at the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel. The single is Strong from Amaranthe, featuring Noora from Battle Beast on lead vocals as well. And thank you so much again to Elize for taking the time a few weeks ago to speak to us. Such a fun interview. That'll almost do it for this edition of the Nuclear PodBlast. We thank you very much for tuning in once again. Usually I like to do a classic blast cut somewhere in the episode, something classic from Nuclear Blast. And the last track for this episode comes from BELPHEGOR. And again, their album from 2000, Necrodaemon Terrorsathan, is being reissued on November 13th, but the title track is actually being re-recorded. Singer Helmuth adds, 20 years later and we're still here, stronger than ever. I originally composed this song in 1998 and 99, tracking and releasing it in 2000. This was a thrilling experiment for me to have the Horde to listen to how Necrodaemon Terrorsathan would sound if we had created the track with our skills and recording capabilities of the present era. So there you go. This is new BELPHEGOR, but also it's your classic blast cut. And we'll see you back here for the next episode of the Nuclear Pod Blast. Look for a new episode to drop sometime around Thanksgiving, in preparation for the holiday season. This is Drucifer. Thanks for being so damned metal.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
This is the Nuclear Pod Blast, the official podcast for Nuclear Blast Records.